So I haven't started Facebook yet. So this is live, or sorry, this is recording first. So we're at a minute mark here of just this, whatever you want to call this, be real. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, this, I'm sure people will be riveted.
So don't worry. They're not watching this. We're getting all this sorted out ahead of time. So we'll just be able to just start our normal chat. So
Got it.
I hope so. I don't think this gets captured because there's a button here on Facebook, and then I say go live now.
Live now. Got it.
Is there anything you want to put in the post? I know that would be sarcastic or humorous.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dude, I literally just woke up like 40 minutes ago.
Dude, I didn't go to sleep.
I know. You and I have to talk about that. That's not going to be good for you.
Well,
it's not.
It's
not.
Is it a story?
No, it's not a story. It's actually it's yeah. Well, you could say everything is a story then, and not believe anything. Why believe anything?
What do I want to give meaning here to?
Right. But in the world of requiring sleep, that's actually a scientific fact.
So was Newton's laws of physics.
Right, until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't.
But even some of that still applies.
Some of it. Okay, are we ready?
I think so.
Okay.
Are we ever ready? It's 6 a.m. Yeah.
6 a.m. Okay, I'm hitting the button.
Okay, good.
Says live video is starting.
Oh, this on
what point? Mm-hmm.
This is on Facebook. Should I go there?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you, if you wouldn't mind? I see a thing here on my other screen, which it's kind of annoying. I got to look down, but
there you are. Yeah, you're live now. Okay, I got us.
And there's probably I don't know if there's a little bit of a delay between obviously what you're seeing on there and what we're talking about, but
I would think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, here we are.
Well, yeah. Hey, good morning, Ryan, and good morning to anybody else that spends time with us here. Maybe we should discuss, how this has come about. I was thinking about this morning. First, I was thinking what the hell are we going to talk about? But really how this has transformed is that you and I have been having a call weekly on Friday mornings for a couple of years now. And sometimes they get pushed because of commitments that fall a little bit higher in the priority list. And that's fine. But for the most part, we've had these calls and we end up talking about things that are, I guess what we think is important. And I think, although I like to think, so this is where I kind of go with this stuff, is I think, maybe I have something that's helpful, but then I also don't want to be in the space of I actually know something.
Right.
It's more, these are experiences I've had, and especially when it comes to, having a family, this is what it's looked like for, the past almost 18 years. And what is that, what has that led to in terms of something that is, I could pass on to somebody, so to speak. And so, yeah, we just had conversations that ended up being like, hey, maybe there's some value here that we could share for other, men that are fathers, husbands, business owners, striving, people that are striving to be something more than their current experience, having an aim in life. And, if I use this hand, it looks better, having an aim in life that they could put themselves towards. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
So here we are.
I heard you. I just quickly glanced down. Yep, we got one person that's hopefully going to find this useful.
So I think it's me.
You're right. It is.
Let's be clear here again. As yesterday during the test.
Yeah.
If my ego needs some calming, some taming, this is it right here.
Well, and this is truly an MVP. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that it was only a week ago that we were on our last one-on-one call, and jokingly we just said, "Hey, maybe we should turn this into something." And then you were like, "Well, why don't we go live?"
Yeah, what the heck?
So here we are.
What's the worst thing that can happen is, nobody cares except us, and so we should just have our conversation as we normally do.
We were going to have it anyways.
Yeah.
And actually, Fridays, I realized that Fridays, it's good that we changed it to today, right? Because Fridays are trickier. usually that's like you said, we've got other commitments sometimes with largely kids tournaments, some sort
Mm-hmm.
of competition, and or like tomorrow, our bike gang trip,
Yep.
our group ride. So yeah, this is probably the best time for you and I, and I think others if they do want to join. Where I think it'll be easier to also make it like just audio if guys are getting ready in the morning, and if it's like you and me, and we've got kids to get out the door, and but you want to just kind of have it on in the background. So we will make this available on other things.
Yeah. Uh, I think that the other piece of this for me is to also what I find is when I speak out my thoughts, I actually can actually think about them in a different way. Because when you
Mm,
hear yourself speak, when you hear something come out of your mouth, you're like, "Oh, that's not quite what I meant. That didn't come out right." And you get to
sure.
parse it out. You get to refine it and actually really formulate what it is you're thinking, or what philosophy you want to live by
Yeah.
as an idea.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is that thinking process. It might not even be what you're thinking about, but what I'm realizing is, I think I've told you, I'm like halfway through this book on Einstein. It's like 22 hours long, right?
Yep.
And listening to it, and I realized I was talking to Kevin yesterday, Kevin Iftikhari. We went for lunch, and I was sharing with him that I think one of the most valuable parts of listening to that book is hearing how he went about thinking about things, like his thought process, because he wrote so much down
Mm,
that sure I don't necessarily fully understand the science that he was involved with, but the thinking process he developed, I think, is actually one of the things that has been the most meaningful to take away from that book, and his well, so far, one of the things.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the process of thought, and how
Yep.
do I end up at a place, a conclusion, or something I want to formulate as an ongoing idea of study.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and yeah, good morning to you as well, Thomas. So yeah, I guess we should probably introduce ourselves to the well
Oh
to
yeah,
the
I guess if we're gonna, so people might, yeah,
yeah. Who are these guys?
yeah,
So Thomas, you're Thomas. I'm Ryan.
yeah.
Um,
As we stumble out of the block here.
um, and you said, yeah, you've been a dad for 18 years, right?
Coming up to, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Two.
that's
Mhm.
true. And I'm also the youngest of six kids.
Yeah.
And I have nieces and nephews that are, in their 40s.
Nieces and nephews that are in their 40s, like my age.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I have been around like children and parenting because
Yeah.
I babysat a bunch of them. I lived
Sure.
with some of my older siblings for summers while working at their businesses, but also taking care of their kids.
Right.
Like I spent my grade 7 summer of grade 7 going into grade 8. I spent it at my oldest sister's house and looked after her firstborn. And she used cloth diapers. And so I was actually changing cloth diapers when I was in grade 7, coming out of grade 7, using pins and stuff and looking after
Wow.
her son, the days I wasn't working at their coffee shop.
Right.
And then I did that the next summer. And then I did it the next summer in a different place when they had two kids. And so between working for them and then sort of looking after their kids while she was working and my brother-in-law was working. I had a ton of experience sort of I wasn't very good though. I mean, it's not like I knew how to parent at all. I was really just a minder of the children, right? But it served me well.
I mean, do we ever know like fully what we're doing? Um,
Well, I think you
you get
fall
back.
you can fall into a place where you feel confident that what you're doing
True.
is
True.
is is
There's
good.
there's a hump that you can get over, right? I know that I've felt that, especially recently, once the kids get to a certain age, right? Like, yeah. So I've got my three. Well, not mine. I have three kids, but uh, so yeah, you said something there about so being an uncle,
Yeah.
but in that context. with children, like being that much younger, anyways. So being a dad could also mean kind of being an uncle in that context. Like you were giving them, you were kind of like dadding them in a way, just as an uncle, and
Yeah, I
changing
don't.
diapers and
Sure, I think I mean, sir, I was definitely a different type of influence, but I think more from my perspective, what it is, it gave me an insight into. I mean, in some ways, I was an observer. I got to
sure,
see what young parents, first time parents, young
yeah,
parents owning their own business, managing their business together, their marriage together, and raising kids. I actually got to observe that in house. I lived there for many summers and
right,
experienced that and saw, what kind of maybe what worked and what maybe I wouldn't want to do. Not
right.
from a place of good or bad, just like, oh, I don't want to live my life that way. Like, so there was a learning process for me that I actually got to call upon as a parent.
Yeah, kind of like it was more like a dad in training.
Yeah, I got to see some things, right?
Yeah,
That most, certainly most of my friends never got to
no,
experience.
I didn't. So, but even more that you were experiencing it, like you're changing cloth diapers, right? Like
Yeah, I
that's
was in it. I was feeding a 1-year-old,
yeah.
making lunch and like baby food and stuff and like actually dealing with it.
Well, and so like you said, most people, including myself, never had that, right? So my dad in training, I would have had a little bit as a kid. Like I really liked babysitting. I remember these boys up the street that loved having me come over because I could pass the like video game levels that they couldn't. So they
Hmm.
would go to the store and rent this, game, and then they get to a point where they're totally stuck, and then they're like, "Can't wait till Ryan comes over. He's gonna pass this level for us." And I had a younger brother, but yeah, when we had our first, and we were the first in our group, largely, I didn't have a lot of that observation, and certainly never changed a cloth diaper. And we did get the for the first one we did get the washable, which is that's just a whole other level for sure, for sure, of cleaning that and doing the laundry with those. Anyways, so yeah, yeah, my experience would have been different to get to that point.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's not, again, it's not good or bad. It's just like I I am grateful to have had
Sure.
that experience and to have, because when I came into being a dad and bringing, and in my case, of course, maybe that's why I ended up having twins, is because I had already had this experience that it
So
was
you're
like, well,
ready.
you could take this on then.
Sure. Yeah. Let me
Go
ask you
for
this.
it. You
Let
want
me ask
kids?
you:
Here's two, man.
Did you
Um,
did you guys do cloth diapers first?
No, never. No, I was
See, you had
never. I was never. No, there was no. There was no. I'm not doing that. There's.
yeah,
We're hanging on by the seat. We're like.
sure. With two of them, yeah, with two of them, right? And you've done it before, and you're like, no, probably not going to do that again. Because
But
we didn't do it with our second.
it allowed me to, like, when we brought the kids home, I had confidence that I could manage this.
Sure.
That I have been around. So, and I have 15 nieces and nephews. So it's, that was just the first example. There were many other kids that I watched being
Yeah.
raised by my siblings and, experiencing and going to their house for dinner and,
Yeah.
hanging out with the kids and playing uncle from a very early age.
Hmm.
That was a benefit for me. And again, it was because I got to see what I liked about it and what I wouldn't do. Right. There's
Yeah. Oh
both
yeah.
there. There was
Yeah. The contrast.
a contrast that I got to work on.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, right? Because your experience was very different than mine. Because
Hmm.
it's a much smaller family. My cousins were much older, but half the family, my mother's side, is not here, so I never was around their kids, even though they were older. I could have. Well, no, I guess they were old, so it's the opposite of you. No, they're not old enough where they would have had their kids, um, but they weren't young enough. Yeah, so I never got that experience.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we were figuring it out as we went on with our own
Right. And at the same
ways.
time, even saying all that,
Yeah,
there's a lot of figuring out.
sure.
Like, all it really did is it gave me a glimpse
Yeah,
of what that would look like, which is completely different than having the full responsibility of being the caregiver and the provider.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
because in all of those instances, I got to walk away. At the end of the summer, I left.
Sure.
I was
You're
like
sleeping
back
in
at
your own bed.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gone now, and I have school, and I'm not even thinking about that stuff anymore. So for 2 months, I got to play a part,
Yeah.
and then I got to walk away from it. Once we brought the kids home, as you know for yourself, it's like, well, this is game on now forever.
Yeah. And you're right. With the first, we thought, yeah, we're like, wow, we got this pretty. We got this. We figured it. We had. She slept really well. We hired a sleep coach, which was, I was like, what? There's sleep coaches, and so she was sleeping very well. Like the holy grail is sleeping through the night. Like we're like, oh, we got this, And then number two comes along, totally different kid, doesn't sleep, won't sleep, still hired another sleep coach, still doesn't sleep, totally different temperament, and we're like, we're the same parents, aren't we? But life is different. Right now we've got the other one and this one, and different things going on, so very humbling.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
wanted
they're
to
good
share that.
teachers, right? If you care to look,
Sure.
the kids are good teachers at seeing what maybe you could make as an aim to work on for yourself.
They're so small, but yet they shine such a big mirror reflection back.
Yeah, and especially as they get older, right? For anybody that's watching this, that's a new father,
Hmm.
it's like just chill, relax, and know that there's going to be lots of opportunities to learn.
You mean it doesn't stop after after they get out of diapers?
No, but it's like it's also beautiful, all of it, right? The
Sure. Yeah.
changes are, because I have some friends that are that had kids earlier than I did, and so I talk to them once in a while and get their experience. And in many cases, a lot of their kids have gone on to university and successful careers and are doing that. And also, being in the financial world, I had the privilege of supporting a number of clients with education funds, and then watching them draw down on those for their kids going off to school and having conversations about that with them.
Right.
That it's actually prepped me for that's now I'm seeing that stage develop in my life where my kids are going to go off.
Right.
And I've talked to a lot of people about that experience, like the mom and the dad, and it's
how it
interesting how
how it was for
how
each of them. Hmm.
yeah, how it is for each of them, right? And how different, the dads are kind of, hey, we got, they're going to go off and be their kids, and I'm going to support them, and they're their own people. The dad's trying to talk himself into the
Sure.
idea that this is all part of the game of life and it's all good.
Yeah.
And the mom is coming completely from the heart. It's my baby. And I
Right.
worry about them every day,
Right. No
right?
matter where they are,
Yeah, no matter, and it's not that the
no matter what
dads
age.
aren't, but the dads want to put on the tough, you know,
Sometimes we do, right?
yeah, the tough front, like, hey, I got this. We're going to be strong through all of this and support them however they need it, et cetera, et cetera. And
Like, kind of like I feel right now. Like, yeah, I got this.
yeah, 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 you got it till you don't, right?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Well, we got four people now.
Hey,
Thank you.
that's
Hey.
awesome.
Well, thank you. Can I see? All right. This is awesome. I can see Alan's here.
Hey, Alan, how
Alan,
about that?
thank you. Hey, brother. Hey, I can now look at the camera. Alan, thank you for joining us, brother. Does mean a lot. You are 33% of our, well, if we exclude Thomas, you're 33% of our audience. So thank you for being here.
I'm trying to figure out how to share it.
I did last night. But I did at 11 something, and I was pretty sure that most people weren't going to see it before 6 a.m.
Right.
And even if they did, did you see the cover I used for our landing page?
I
Sorry.
think I may have, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's not ideal, but it was more important to get it out than monkey around with that last night at 11 o'clock when I knew I was going to try and get some sleep.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I had a thought this morning. So
Sure.
you had last week when we were chatting about this stuff, you had asked me a question that I think had surfaced when you were talking to some other people regarding the relationship between being a dad and being a husband.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Does being a good dad mean you're a good husband, or
Right.
something to that effect? And I thought, well, no, it doesn't naturally mean just because you're good at one, you'll be good at the other. Right.
Sure.
But I was thinking about this over the last couple of days, and I think there's a there's a different there's a different question I think that's more important,
Okay.
and that is, what are you? And this would be the same for, a wife in the relationship as it is for the
Sure.
husband.
Okay.
What is the example, or the dad, what is the example that you are showing your kids of how to um, relate to your spouse?
Right.
What are you showing them as acceptable behavior or non-acceptable behavior? What is it that you are doing in terms of um, disagreements? How do you manage your disagreements? How do you have disagreements in front of them? Do you
Sure. If you
fight?
even do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like, what is it that you are showing your children? Because inevitably, I think, and I don't know. So maybe
Sure.
I'll pause for a moment and I'll say this: we are not psychotherapists. We are not professional anythings in the realm of human development or
Is it a
understanding.
disclaimer? Is this a
This is a
disclaimer? Yeah.
disclaimer. I was thinking about this too. It's like,
Yeah.
wait a second. We need to
Right.
let people know we have zero training other than real life training in this,
Sure.
and we are not here offering advice or saying how you should do something. It's really, this is our experience, and maybe we've learned some things that would be helpful. But let's disclaim the fact that if you're looking to me, I'll just speak for myself in this moment. If you're looking to me for genius, no, it's not here.
Well, hold on. I would say you can be a genius without the degree, right?
Yeah, sure, but as a warning of, they said and therefore I did, there's no accountability here.
So
We don't have the data. We don't have the PhDs and the doctorates
sure,
behind us to
sure.
say we
There's no,
understand the psychology of children. Or
yeah, we've got no letters that we get to put after a name. There's
yeah.
no degree on my wall here. And, I've been digging into my family history here, as I think you know, right? I've shared a little bit. And my mother's family came to Canada with a grade 4 education.
Mm,
That was the minimum for in Japan, apparently, for, I guess, maybe people who didn't have other means. So they came here with a grade 4 education,
mm.
and maybe I could probably share a little bit of it here today. So, definitely no degrees and letters, but just sharing a little bit, just reading a little bit about their journey. The dad started to become a taxi driver. I guess they had taxis in the this would have been the early 1900s. Would they have? Maybe it was some sort of. I don't know. Was it like a horse taxi or something? I don't know. But anyways, he worked. He hustled. And he figured things out in life. And then it skips the next paragraph, and he's now got a sawmill with 60 people working for him.
Mm.
And then they end up having 11 children. And the short version of this is, because I'm digging into one of the stories of just those 11 children. Uncle Arthur, as he's called, he would have been my dad's uncle.
Uncle Art.
Uncle Art. So I guess he's my great uncle if he's my dad's uncle. Is that how
Yeah,
that works?
yeah.
Okay. So my great uncle Arthur. So there's this word I'm trying to find for humble, but like a whole other level of humble.
Mm.
So all I've known about Arthur is he loves bringing the family together. When he was like 93, he'll fly over here he's in Japan. He would fly over here to Vancouver, pay for everyone at a fancy restaurant to come together. And he is really important to bring the whole family together. He's sitting there with his notes on, like, okay, who's who in the room. And, oh yeah, this is Ryan and his kids. And he's updating it because I had another one since the last time I saw him. And that's what what else do I know about Arthur that everyone would, not everyone, some people would call him Rich Uncle Arthur. And I knew he had done some big things in his life, and I got glimpses of what it was. But that's largely it. Family's really important. He's living a pretty, he had just like scuba dived at like 93 before he came over. Still played golf, So I was, so pretty cool guy. But that's
Hmm.
kind of all I knew. And so there's that influence, like you're saying, in terms of an example.
Yes.
Um, but this was supposed to be a short version of it. So I start digging into it, and I actually finally get his name, the full name, because his last name isn't the family name. So I Googled his full name because I was on my own, and I couldn't find anything. And then my parents were like, no, it's Joneshi. And I was like, what do you mean, Joneshi? Oh yeah, he took his wife's name.
Oh wow.
Which is, have you ever heard of that here in North America?
Mm. I think the only example I've seen of that is somebody merging
Both
both people taking both
hyphenated.
names hyphen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got friends like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a man taking the woman's name,
No, I don't think I have
and
till
it's
now.
because till now, Uncle Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Rich Uncle Arthur.
It's rich Uncle Arthur.
Let's not forget that.
Forget that piece. Apparently, there are people in the family that like worship him, right? Put him on a bit of a pedestal.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So the reason is he's got 10 siblings, right? There's a lot of people, like, you don't know exactly how many were male, female, but there's a lot of people that to carry on the name,
Mm-hmm.
Suji. But his wife there wasn't anyone else.
Oh wow! So there was an act of, hey, this is important, and I can do this. This is what I can do. This is something I can do that has value.
That's pretty honorable, right?
It is. That's pretty.
So,
Yeah.
so as a man, turns out a dad, but just wasn't let. Anyways, there's another story there. So here's the short version, okay? Because this is one conversation. I learned that. I finally now can Google his name, and I find this certificate online, which you could search if you search up Arthur Joneshi. On the certificate, it talks about him being the very first Japanese. He brought the very first Japanese company into California back in the early I guess this is like, I don't know, 1920s, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I'm pretty sure back then it was like a silicon company. So here he is, Japanese guy in California, first company in there. Well, you got the whole war, you got a whole bunch of other stuff, but I don't know what it was like for him. I think he's pretty small, a smaller Japanese businessman dealing in California. It's a silicon. It ends up being like a semiconductor company. Like, he's involved with Silicon Valley. He's involved with computers and all this. So I'll just skip right to the end here. In 2022, in this certificate, the Wall Street Journal named his company one of the top 100 most sustainably managed companies in the world.
Wow.
There is a Arthur Joneshi Day on the calendar in San Diego next week on his birthday.
Seriously.
Right? Another level of humble. He's 103 next week.
Right.
So a lot of my family is in Japan.
So
right
he wouldn't have brought the company in 1920 if
yeah,
he's
so
103, because he would have been
Right.
he'd have been the most amazing 1-year-old on the planet ever known to humanity. He might have been Jesus if that's the case.
Thanks for pointing out my math.
Okay.
So
we're probably talking the
What is
50s. Probably the 40s or 50s is possible if he was born in the 20s.
After the war?
If he was born 103, so 103,
okay.
he had to he had to be born in 1920.
Okay.
By 1921 by my math.
It's pretty good. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So they had the whole family, those 11 kids got split during World War II. So I think he went to Japan as the one half, and then, well, not quite, but so yeah, maybe he came back after. And would have been so now you're okay,
which would make sense, because after the war there was a real, Japan really changed in how it was doing.
Sure.
I mean, it invented business in the world after that, right? Like, in order for it to rebuild itself, it became a economic powerhouse, an industrial country. Right. So it would make sense that he would probably that would be a perfect time to launch business in America.
Except how America and Canada looked at people of Japanese origin.
It would have been risky.
It would have been
like hard
going into. They were enemies, right? Enemies of the state. So that's even okay. So he came here in that context, and on his 100th birthday, they've honored him with a day named after him in San Diego.
Wow, that's cool.
So, just what was the next level of humble? But how did we get to her? How did I get started? Where did that? What was the?
I think this all
Why did?
stemmed from, and I never finished my thought. I was
Okay,
sharing about the idea of the
sorry.
responsibility
Did I go off on some massive
of,
tangent?
it's okay. No, I think I can reel it all in here.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I was sharing that our children watch us
Right, right,
in how we parent, but how we relate to our spouse, and
right.
that builds in them how they're either going to accept being treated. And then I went into the disclaimer
Yeah.
and
Oh, and then
referred to
the
myself as
degrees.
no genius.
Right, right.
You may be a genius, but I'm no genius.
You.
But in the context
Okay.
of, letters
Degrees.
behind my name that say
Right.
I have an expertise
Yeah.
in this world of family planning, parenting, raising kids.
Yeah.
It's just my experience. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I
Which
was
is
trying to get to.
sure. Which
And
is
then
all
I
there
found out
is.
about your uncle, which is
Right.
awesome because I didn't
Right.
know about your uncle.
Rich uncle. Yeah.
Rich Uncle Art, who's got a day named after him, who at the
Exactly.
age of 1 brought the first Japanese company into
He's
America.
apparently he's a genius. He's a genius.
He is.
We can say
See, that is
that is a
genius.
genius.
I
I I don't think I was doing that at one. Okay, so let me go back. Sorry for the massive tangent. Thank you for bringing us back.
no, it's
And
okay.
I actually made so I did make some notes. And what the number one thing was what you actually just brought up, like that notion of what is the word dad mean?
Mm.
Right.
So I want to go back to finishing my thought though
Sure.
on
Please. Sorry. Yeah.
so I think um I had this really weird, I'll make this story as short as I can. So I had this
Like
really
mine.
weird moment
Yeah.
when the girls were, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years old, somewhere in there. And I had been at a client's place in North Vancouver. This is
Mm-hmm.
when I lived in Vancouver.
That's the word.
I
Right.
don't even think I knew you.
Well, yeah, you
Pretty
probably
sure we
did.
didn't know each other yet.
Sure.
Um,
I might even
and
be born.
uh,
No, you were. No, you were.
no, I mean, we hadn't become friends yet.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
not talking about birth. I was a parent,
You're a
right,
parent. I
Mike?
was born.
I'm already a parent.
Just
So
joking.
anyhow, I'm coming back from North Vancouver. I lived in East Van, and I was going over the Second Narrows Bridge and down McGill Avenue, and I was doing 95 kilometers an hour, and it's a 50K zone.
Right. Past the peony there.
Yeah, and on the bottom side of the peony, and I got
Yeah.
pulled over.
Yeah. They hide their lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the officer comes up to me and he's like, where are you going in such a hurry? Or first, do you know how fast you're going? Yeah, I actually do. Right. And where are you going in such a hurry? And I just said, man, I've been like working since 7 this morning. I just finished a meeting in North Vancouver. It's like 9 o'clock at night. And I just really want to get home, say goodnight to my kids and, blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Because
It's like, do you have any other tickets recently or any other offenses? And I'm like, no, I haven't. And he's like, okay, well, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to go and check your record. And if you're being truthful, well, that's great. And if you're not, well, that's not going to be good.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I hope you haven't lied.
Right.
And secondly, while I'm there, I'd like you to explain to me how you driving this fast and being in a car accident and dying is going to work for your family.
Whoa.
Yeah, totally. Like heavy duty. I'm just like, I just been
Th-
pulled over by a police officer and he's like
Yeah.
dumping this.
He's giving you a bit of a lecture. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes away. And of course, I'm pretty good at the BS. I'm thinking, hey, I got this. I can come up with I know what he's looking for. I got a story for him. I'm a salesman. I can manage this. So
Sure.
I give him a nice song and dance. He comes back. He's like, yeah, you don't have any other offenses on your driving record in the last 5 years. So that was good. And then, what did you learn? Right. What have you come up with? So I say my piece to him and he's like, what are your kids? Do you have boys or girls or a mix? And I said, oh, they're both girls. And he lays into this like 3-minute lecture on the importance of the male father figure in the daughter's life.
Right.
And how him showing up, he goes, how would it be if I had to show up on your doorstep and say, hi, Mrs. DeSchutter, I'm officer so-and-so. I hate to inform you, but your husband is dead. Like he's laying all this on me, but he goes into this lecture about the importance of the opposite sex being in the life of the child and how important that is. And,
Wow.
I'm sure he doesn't have a PhD, but he seemed to, he was like really adamant that this was super important and that my not being there would really be a burden on my daughters as they grow up because they need to see the male role in their life.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that has stuck with me in some capacity. Like
Apparently.
there was well, not only the oddness of it, it was like the
Yeah.
guy walked away and I was like, just give me the ticket, man.
Right.
Like I'm rolling up my window going, fuck, what was that all
Right.
about?
I just had to get home. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to get home. But there was value in
For sure.
some regard to him saying what he said. It stuck with me on the level of, wow, that kind of, in a weird way, that kind of has some logic to it. And
Yeah.
fast forwarding now, what do I see is that I have these, teenage daughters that are approaching the age of going off to college and university.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see the importance that I play in their life
Right. And you're still there.
as a dad and as a man and what they expect, how they expect to be treated
Yeah.
by the example that I give, not only to them,
Yeah.
but
To
to my
others.
wife,
Yeah. To
right?
others
And to others,
in their
right?
view. Yeah. In
Yeah,
their
like because they're watching all the time, right?
for sure.
These kids are watching us. They're
For sure.
picking up. They're picking up our cues and our energy and all of that stuff. They're getting it.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
I'm imagining that officer was a dad.
yeah, I'm thinking he probably had some experience, and he's probably knocked on some doors and said, "Hey, sorry
He's
to tell
done.
you."
He's at that pinnacle where he's been able to see this, the good and the
Mm-hmm.
bad, many times to be able to provide that, wisdom.
Right. And so, what did I do years later as a result of that conversation? I went out and got a motorcycle.
I actually had, they're going to say car racing, but yeah, a motorcycle.
And then I went on a 7,000-mile journey into the US last summer and
Oh, yeah.
back
Yeah.
on my motorcycle just to be, not to
But
be anything,
but did you ever hurry on the motorcycle? Unsafely? I mean, because you've developed a level of proficiency though on it.
right. Well, in traffic, I'm very careful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Right.
got the highest risk.
But I did also have a few moments when I was on that trip to the US where I thought, what does it feel like to go this speed?
You did tell me that.
And
Long stretch.
and so I've experienced it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but these were long highways with nobody on them. They're like, it's amazing. Just aside, it's amazing that in America,
Yeah.
with
Bless America.
350 million people,
Yeah.
there was how many roads I came upon that were old highways that aren't used anymore because they built all these interstates, and there's nobody on them. There's these
And they're beautiful,
beautiful,
right? They're beautiful. The pavement, yeah.
and they're in areas that are just magnificent. Because if you go on the interstates, it's all little stations of big, huge, tall, fast food signs and gas station signs.
Right. You can't
And
see
then it's
any
just
concrete
blasting,
and
blasting down to the
billboards.
next one of those.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
these old highways meander through small towns and places that are
Right.
incredible. That it was a blessing, right? It was a gift.
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah. I was there for a little bit with you sharing it, and yeah, I can't imagine what the full experience was like. But yeah, it's just as a funny aside. When we last trip we made, the kids are just they have this funny voice. God bless America. But really though, like because there's some stuff they've really figured out. Like the kids had an amazing time with the variety of things, the selections of things, how well things are made and maintained. Like we were in Palm Desert, like it's they're like all of this is in the desert. Like there was just sand here before, like that was profound to realize that what's possible. I don't know, anyways, we can go down a different rabbit hole with that, but I do want to come back quickly because your point there about the role that a man plays in their kids' lives, and so I posted. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I shared this from Chief Chad. My friend. Chief,
I don't think I have.
Chad. We haven't met him. I've talked about you lots with him. He's got a bike, right? A motorbike too. And so he shared with me because I was asking about. So we were talking. You're right. So last week we were talking about: is there a word for both being a dad and a husband? Which there isn't, and there isn't in any language apparently. And then, but it also, that's always not the case, because there's times where you're a dad and not married. We've got some friends that are
Mm-hmm.
just a single dad. So I was like, oh, well, we can't use that other word because that's going to exclude some dads. So dad's the word. But then he shared in his language. He's one of the language keepers of his First Nations
Oh, wow.
group. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's got quite the honor there and
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. And he said there's 2 words for dad in their language, and there's a word for the relationship and the role and responsibility a man has with his son.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a different word because there's a different role and responsibility that the man has with his daughter.
Wow.
Right?
Look at that. Look how this story just came together from that
Boom.
officer, that police officer who preached. I mean, I really, now if I saw him, I'd be like, bring it, man, preach it. Because that was, that was some good advice I think he gave me. But no, I appreciate that. I really like that idea that Chief Chad shared that with you, that there's this, because there is a role. There's
It's different
from,
too. It can't
yeah,
be,
from
yeah.
everything I can see,
Yeah.
there's a different responsibility and a different level, or I guess maybe not even level, because I want to love my kids at the same level, and I don't have a
Sure.
son, so I don't know what that experience is like from
Yeah.
that take. But I want to love my kids the same. I want to give them as much advantage as I give the other, like no favoritism. There's yet in the conversations I would have with a son versus the conversations I would have with a daughter, they're going to change, and they're gonna divide at
Yeah.
some point as they get older, where we're talking about things from a different perspective or a different viewpoint.
100%. And because I was thinking about that, and because there's things that I can relate to with my son because I'm a male, and there's things that I can't relate to with my daughter because I'm not a female. Like, I don't know some of the things that she's gone through, right, with being a teenager.
Yeah.
But I can also, though, give her
And
a
yeah,
different.
on transforming to become a woman, right?
Right.
Whereas
I don't know
what
what
it's
that's
like
like.
to, yeah, you can talk to your son about that, but
Correct.
about becoming growing
Maybe
into
a
a
man.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with my daughter, though, I can bring a different perspective of what it's like to be a teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
And how I can talk to her from that perspective
Right.
as well.
From let's talk about what he's really after.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Let me
But
tell you what he might be thinking about.
let me tell you. Let me prophesize here of what might be going through
I don't like to make assumptions.
his little mind.
Yeah. I'll just put this out there. Yeah, there's been a lot of those conversations. I mean, great conversations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this notion of, what does it mean? What does the word dad mean? And the part, I was thinking about this for myself, right? And I realized that it's going to mean something different to everybody, right? Based on your own experience, because yours is very different than mine in terms of how you got to that point when you first became a dad, right? There's a defined moment in a man's life when you become a dad, right? Like, I'll remember that exact time, because before that, like, I remember this is my wife and I have a funny story. We're sitting there in the midwife's office, and she's asking us to get the parents, like, we're pregnant at this point, right? And she's asking, can you get the parents need to sign this? And both of us are like, oh, we got to get our parents to sign this? Because it hadn't sunk into us that we were the parents.
I gotta go to my what? Wait a
Um,
second.
because it hadn't happened yet, right? We hadn't really become. I mean, but
Do we need their permission? Is this a permission slip? Like,
why do you need to get them?
is this a field trip I'm going on or something?
But but we were, right. I mean, even those first 9 months are so important. For me, it starts the moment you find out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
But my version, my you've talked about this a lot, right? We're meaning making machines.
Yep.
What I make the word mean to me is completely different than what you make it mean. There's some overlap for sure, right? And I think the reason why we're both talking here is there's a lot of overlap, but it also does mean different things.
Yeah, and well, not only that, but we will approach it differently, and
Sure.
based on
Yeah,
our experiences and what we've
that
seen.
example. Yeah,
Yeah.
So back to what you said there. I was going to say this would be a great question for those 3 people still that are listening. But
I'm one of them.
we dropped one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we still got good retention because they're still here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alen. Juice. Oh, okay. Well, we got Alen and Andre. So
Okay.
I'm
Hey,
pretty happy. I'm pretty happy. I'm very happy. Sorry. I'm not going to soften that. I'm
dude, I
very
was happy just having the conversation.
I'm
So
happy with you because we would have been doing this anyways. I'm even happier that you're back. We're back up to 4. You must have logged in again.
yeah.
We're back up to and we've got Alan and Andre here. So
Yeah.
who I
Thank you.
love, who I love a lot, and very appreciative that I get to be in their life and they get to be in ours. What was I saying?
You were back to your questions.
Right.
There was
About what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meaning making machines.
Meaning make machines. It's going to mean different things. We have a big overlap. Back to the example.
Yeah.
So your version of what that example is also going to be different than mine. But again, I think there's going to be a lot of overlap. Just given,
Yeah.
And this quote, someone's probably come up with this, but Gandhi's was like, "Be the change."
Mm-hmm.
Ours is be the example. Be the example you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Be the example you want your kids to see. Be the example that you want their friends to see. That's come up a lot in this house lately with my daughter and her friends, because she's got a very big friend group, which I've shared. I think I've showed the pictures of dozens of sneakers at their front door.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I love she's got some amazing friends. I'm very fortunate. I was going to do a lecture like that cop when her friends were over one night, because I was just feeling super grateful that these people, like, these were her friends. Like, they're really amazing, kids, young men and women. But yeah, I realized that I have a responsibility. I'm an example, whether I like it or not, whether I want to be or not. They, as you say, are watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as a man, like you said, yeah, as a man, first and foremost, right? As a husband, as a dad, whatever words we want to use, but it's you and me. Like, that's
Well, it even goes.
Up.
The other word I would add to that is as a friend. Like, I have a friendship with my children. I have.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, we're friends. How would I treat my friend?
Well, okay, yeah. On that exact example, so how you and me, this example, right? When you and I were on the call and the speaker in the car, right? And we hung up, and I said, "Hey, I love you, man," and you said it back. Jai's like, "Oh, you say I love you too to your friends?" Because she does with her girlfriends.
Yeah,
but she'd never heard me saying that to a friend,
right,
a male friend,
right. Yeah, I think So that right there is I mean, if I were to think like, oh, I wonder how that hit her. How did that land?
Yeah.
It's probably a reinforcement that what she's doing is completely cool. Like, there's nothing. My dad does that with guys. Yeah. Of course, I can tell my girlfriends I love them. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's.
I remember this. This stuck with me too. I was, you remember the Boys Club Network?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at one of their gatherings, and they had some good speakers up, and one of the guys, this guy did have some letters after his name, I think. He said that one of the maybe the most important, I can't remember exactly, but one of the most important things that he does, and some of those mentors in that group do, I did a little bit, was to validate that young man's experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's your experience is perfectly normal.
Whatever
you define as normal, but
so I don't have letters. I have letters now before my name. I have a title.
Oh yeah.
As you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And as I went through seminary and did that work, I was blessed to have had 3 terms of spiritual counseling work. Right. And what does it mean to counsel people in a spiritual way, right? And so a lot of that was getting in groups of 3, and throughout the week having calls between those 3 people, and each person playing the role, one as an observer. Okay. So you would take time observing the other 2. And then while you're observing, one person is the counsel, right? The spiritual counselor, and the other person is bringing their
Whatever they can talk
struggle,
about.
whatever it is that they want to bring to the surface.
We would call it integrating, in our men's group. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bring their integration that they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful thing was everybody was sharing truth. There was nobody was bringing something as a made up thing. Hey, I'm going to try to give
Oh,
this thing to you.
hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, everybody was bringing, this is what's really going on in my life right now.
Right.
Right. But the point of this was the number one thing, and this goes to I think this goes to of course I'm going to forget his name. Psychologist, doctor of psychology. He's no longer around, but
Young.
we read it. No, we read a bunch of his books. He's an American and well known, like famous American psychologist. Anyhow, um, it'll
Yeah.
spark in me. His whole, one of the big things that he brought to the profession was listening
Yeah.
and reflecting back what you heard,
Right.
so that the person knows that they've been heard.
Right. That you get me. Not just not just reflecting back like the same words, because I could parrot what you just said back to you, but like putting it into maybe my words, but trying to understand what where you're coming from.
Right.
Yeah?
Like here's not only that, but when you do that, so if you're in a conversation with somebody and you say, blah, 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 and they're like, oh, so do you mean da, 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 da? And if they didn't get it, you'll go, no, it's not
Sure.
quite that. It's more like this. And then they'll repeat back to you what they think they heard. And if they've got it, you go, yeah, that's it.
And it's almost like back to one of the very first things you said in terms of like helping get it out in the way you want it to come out.
Yeah. And that validates you.
Right.
And that's what that guy was talking about is that it's somebody knowing they've been heard, because there's so often, and you can take this to, if I just look at my own life, the disagreements I've had with my wife, my siblings over the years, friends at times, is that nobody's listening.
Yeah.
We're just lobbing grenades back and forth, but nobody's taking the moment to go, hey, I just want to make sure I understood what you said, right? That I've got it.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm gonna agree with you or disagree with you. I just want to make sure I understand. And if you pause and take that moment in a disagreement, you immediately bring the whole level of the anxiety and the weight of it down to a level where now we're actually conversing and no longer
debating or arguing.
Yeah. I have to get the author's name.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm
while you do that,
yeah.
It'd be nice if we had like a producer that could look that up. That would be cool. Eh? If anyone knows who Thomas is talking about, well, we don't really. We only have 2 people left. So,
not only we have.
Sorry, that's 2 more than none. That's 2 more than we had last week.
Dr. Carl Rogers.
Oh. Okay.
And one of the books that I there's a couple that I had to read. There's also Howard Kleinbell.
Don't know these names.
Basic types of pastoral care and counseling, but Carl Rogers was a book that was really impactful was On Becoming a Person is the name of the book. And Carl Rogers is a super well-known psychologist, famous from the US.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in also in the context of the work you've done to become a reverend, right? Is that the letters you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the title before my name that I earned.
So you have a lot of letters before your name.
I have, yeah, that's a big one.
I don't have that.
We wanted to make sure people thought it was something, so we used Reverend and Minister to like
both of them.
Yeah, I get both. I get either one of those, right?
I gotta get some letters in front of my name. What too is there's a whole other story about people just putting letters in front of the name, right?
Yeah.
I have this joke with Kevin Preston that he gets to put doctor.
Yeah.
But then there was a guy on stage that was like master something.
Right.
And then so Kevin and I was joking like, but you could just put some letters, right? No one gave him those letters. He's just decided like, I'm Master Ryan. You could just grab some that work for you.
Right. Well, in English, like English boarding school, you would be known as Master as a
Would you?
young kid.
Okay.
That
I
title
don't.
is like for I think kids in a boarding school or something. They're like Master Ryan. Why are you late today?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, like
But
there's something
I haven't been to a British
there's
boarding school before.
yeah, I don't even know if it's from there. I just made that up. It sounded good, but I know there's a reference there somewhere.
Okay.
This is why I had the disclaimer of
Right. You
don't,
don't really know
because
what you're talking about.
I'll make stuff up in the moment.
It's all right. I'll call you out, or somebody else will. Just feel
That's
free
right.
to feel free to comment on anything that's like,
That
I
guy's
think
full
that's
of it, man.
yeah, that would make him one. That's probably not true. But so yeah, next time I'm gonna get some more sleep because I'm having a little.
Yeah,
But you
you're doing well.
yeah, thanks. I'm pretty good for a while. We can talk about this tomorrow. The what were you just saying though about? Okay, yeah. So validating. Okay, so here, yeah, in the work you did,
Yeah,
was all about removing though as much as possible your own bias, our own bias, because it's to give people grace. It's hard to hear somebody if you
yeah.
don't know all of the stories, all of the biases, your
Your
experience,
filters, your
your
own filters. Yeah,
filters, your invisible forces, like all these things that are going on that largely we don't know about. Like there's still stuff like that go on that make it really hard to understand what's being said. To
yeah.
understand someone else's experience, right?
Sure.
Would you
Yeah.
say?
Listening is one of the hardest things to learn to do is to truly listen,
Yeah.
to be able to just be with somebody. Cause I've, I don't have nearly the experience as many, counselors out there and psychologists out there, but the limited experience I have had has been where, basically if I'm doing great work, I haven't said anything.
Hmm.
And
Right.
and I'm 10 minutes in and all I've done is gone, okay. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I got that. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. All I've done is let them know I'm still here, right? I'm still with you,
Yeah.
and this is you
Yeah. I'm
getting to.
here.
There's no judgment here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So talking about filters, even when I'm in disagreement, like I wish I could call upon this when I'm having a disagreement with somebody, where I could put myself in that place instead of getting triggered, which I
Yeah.
do,
Sometimes. Yeah.
right? Well, I do. Like, yeah,
Yeah. For sure.
sometimes and
We all
sometimes
do.
I don't, right? But
Yeah.
I
It
get
doesn't
triggered,
matter.
and then the old technology takes over,
Sure.
and then I'm not listening, right?
Right. Right.
So I really wish in those moments I could call upon that when I'm going into when I'm going to work with somebody. It's a whole I'm coming in from a different place where I'm not attached, and
Right.
I'm here to I know I'm here to support, and I wish I could turn that switch on when I'm having disagreements with people I care a great deal about and I don't get triggered, and I could turn that switch on of being, okay, I'm just going to listen now, actually, and not be, not have it that I'm right about anything,
Sure.
because I'm not right about anything. I'm just listening.
Well, and I think you can. I think you do. Like you
Oh
shared
yeah,
this with
yeah,
me. Yeah, you shared this with me the other. Maybe you're just bringing up a hypothetical example then. So I think maybe you do, right? Because you shared this with me. Like you can step into that suit of Minister Thomas to probably put on that. Okay, wait a second. I do know how to do this. I'm going to just listen right now.
yeah. But I'm thinking more of the
Oh,
muscle memory to do it. When I get triggered, I wish there was like the second trigger.
yeah.
Like, how you can
Yeah.
build a gate in a computer. Like when this happens, then
If this,
this
then
is the
that.
next thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Like I,
Sure.
I
Which you
want to get
can.
to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
want to
can.
get
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
place where that muscle automatically,
I got you.
you know what? I realize within myself in that
Ooh.
moment, ooh,
Yeah.
I just got
I know what you mean.
triggered.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a step back here. I'm
Right.
not going to
There's
engage.
a second trigger, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Okay.
second trigger comes in,
Boom, like
right?
boom, boom. That
Yeah.
would be amazing. Because what happens, and I've experienced this. I'm sure some people out there have been triggered before. Is the trigger happens, and you know what? Actually, do you know Gabby Bernstein? Her
Yeah.
work, yeah. She had said this. I saw her on stage, and she had said this, right? Because it helped me, like if you are on the spiritual path, she's on a path, and she said, "Look, I know we only have 2 minutes here." She said, it's not about not getting triggered. like, she's up there. I still get triggered. It's the time that it takes to get
that you
back
sit in it.
to,
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is like, because I think I've realized with myself that time is definitely getting shorter. I can think of an example in the last month where I was quite triggered, and it took me maybe an hour. But I'm hearing you say like, boom, triggered, boom. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know
when I'm in it, when I really want it is when I'm in it. So I don't say something or do something or act in a way that is actually going to cause more upset than if I could call on that grace and be, wait a second, I'm not going to fall into that trap, DeSchutter. I always talk to myself by my last name when I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, we got a minute here. You know what I just noticed on Facebook? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to honor. I know you were big on this too. I think we'll honor the time that we've committed to here. Wow.
Yeah.
Are you okay with an hour? Because actually, you and I didn't actually just
yeah.
that,
I think it probably works.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I scheduled it for an hour.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it because this is kind of just happening. But I noticed on Facebook is it's got us when I see you right now.
Yeah, we're looking the opposite directions.
When,
it's actually perfect. It couldn't be more perfect in my opinion. It's just like we talked about this like at a great length. Hey, if we sit this way, it'll look like we're talking to each other. And then on Facebook,
I'll look at you on the screen.
Exact.
And now something's inverted it.
Yeah, it's a mirror because I think when I'm looking at this, it's backwards.
Why is it doing that?
On this software, Riverside, it's coming up as. When I see myself here, this is
on my screen. Yours is straight, like it's normal.
Yeah.
Mine's backwards.
Yeah. So there's
going on? A mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so confused.
That's okay.
Well, we'll figure that out.
It's all perfect.
We'll figure that out for next week. Well,
maybe we won't, and it doesn't matter. It's completely.
We're both talking to other people.
Yeah, we're talking to out there. There's an out there that's we're sharing with,
as we're talking about being with somebody and talking, listening to them. Meanwhile, our faces are pointing the other direction.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a discussion point for people. Nothing they said was riveting, but the fact that they're looking away from each other is what has really captured my attention here.
I'm curious to know who they're talking to. Who else is there?
That's right. Could care less what they had to say, but man, it looked funny.
Well, this was fun. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
I look forward to. We'll do it again next week, right?
Okay, yeah.
If 5 people come, or 2, or 1, or
well, and hold on. Are we planning to go to YouTube here? I'd like to be on YouTube.
Yeah. So you remember? So in like, I had to apply, and I didn't realize it was a 24-hour like.
Make some invitations, right? Got it.
Yeah. So we'll be able to next time. And LinkedIn, I got us on LinkedIn, so we could do LinkedIn if you think that's a good.
Okay. Oh, sure. Spot. I'm like whatever.
There's a lot of dads on there, probably. Right?
I'm like, let's just go till they turn us off. It's like maybe they'll just shut us down.
Somebody's like,
do not let those two people anywhere near this platform.
the microphone or platform. That would be amazing. Like if that ever happened, if they said no, we've done something right.
Yes, I guess. Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Hey, have a great day.
Yeah, you too, man. I love you.
Hey, I love you too.
Yeah.
It's been good. It's been good, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Did you see? I'll send you the picture. I got a group mic set. I'm excited. I hope they work.
Okay.
I want to jam while we're out.
You know how long it takes to put them in helmets, right?
I have no idea.
You got to take the helmet apart and put the ears in the ear things, and like there's a whole deal. There was a lot of parts. Yeah. It's a sit down at a bench and take all the padding out of the motorcycle helmet.
How about we do it at lunch then? How about we do half the ride without, half with if we're doing it at lunch kind of thing? Could you? Anyways, okay. People don't want to hear this part.
Yeah.
Okay. So So I'm gonna shut off Facebook.
I'm not even sure I want to hear this part. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I bought them. They're on loan. Okay. So
you're shutting off the live, right?
I'll shut off the live. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks,
Alan. Thank you, everybody.
Juice. Thanks for being here, brothers. Love you guys.
And whoever else watches along the way, thank you.
I guess it'll stick out there.
Send us your thoughts, comments, things you'd like us to talk about if you want, or not.
Talk about.
Yeah.
Feedback. Thank you. All right. So your live video has ended.
This live video has ended. You can watch the video again shortly. All right.
Whew. I'll stop this one too, right? We don't need this going on now, do we?
What's that?
So then there's Riverside still recording too.
Oh no, you can, yeah, you can axe that. Yeah.